So, do you remember back kind of getting that first call about going to ECW? I know Conan had a hand in brokering that deal, but do you remember kind of when you first were told that you were going to ECW and what your thoughts were at that time about making that ECW debut?
Yeah, actually, I remember Conan had been up there first, and he was building a good relationship with Paul Heyman. And if I'm not mistaken, at the time, Paulie had asked Conan if he can get him a couple wrestlers because Dean, Eddie, and Benoit were on their way out. They had just signed with WCW, so Conan right away, I mean, the first two people that he brought over were Psychosis and me. So I remember him telling me the story afterwards, but when he told me, he actually told Psychosis and myself at the same time, like, hey, you guys are going to get booked for ECW. And we kind of had an idea what it was, but we really didn't, or we hadn't seen any live footage. So Conan, of course, smartened us up, and he said, I'll get you guys some tapes so you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. And when we saw the first videos, at the time, Psychosis and I were living together in Mexico. So when we saw the videos, we were going, what the fuck? Wow, we're really going to go into this? So we were pretty excited, man. I mean, it was something completely different. I guess in the midst of it all, being that it was hardcore wrestling, we brought a different style of hardcore, and that was, jumping off the balconies, doing Frankensteiners, and going on top of the cars, and we just added our touch into the hardcore scene, which was a high-flying style that we had.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I remember even back then, and people, they fondly remember it today, how they didn't know what to expect, when you guys got in the ring, and by the end of that first match, they were, jaws on the floor. This is incredible. Like, you guys were there to, in a way, take up that gap that was being left by the Eddie and Chris and Dean leaving, these amazing technical wrestlers, and now there was a whole different amazing technical wrestling that was coming. So I think people remember that very fondly. When you got to that ECW arena, this famed, maybe it wasn't quite as famed in Mexico, though I know Nicho talked about, kind of his knowing that was an important place. But when you got to the first time to that building, what were your thoughts on the building itself, and long before the fans even showed up that night? What was your initial gut reaction to the arena?
Let's not jump too far and talk about our first experience of walking into the building. Just the fact that we flew into Philly, Kathy Fitzpatrick picked us up at the airport and took us to the Travel Lodge. Our experience of walking into the Travel Lodge was probably more shocking than walking into the ECW arena. I remember we got our bags out of the car. We were walking into the hotel, and as soon as you walked into the hotel, there was like a stairway, like almost like they call it like a snail stairway. It just curves around the wall. So we walk in there. There's a shitload of cops outside, and it almost seems like there's a brawl going on inside. Well, we walk in, and you just hear a lot of yelling, a lot of cussing, a lot of radio walkie-talkies from the popos, and get up, oh fuck yeah, and here comes New Jack down the stairs with a bunch of cops, and he's handcuffed, and they're taking him. I'm like, what's going on, man? You can only imagine. I was 18 years old at the time. 19 years old. And I'm going, wow, where are we at? it's Philly. I know it's Philly. I just didn't know it was that gangster. Well, damn. I mean, that was the first experience right off the back. At the time, we didn't know who New Jack was. We just saw some dude being handcuffed and taken away. Later on, we saw him in the ECW arena backstage in the locker room. Oh, damn, this is the dude that they had handcuffed earlier at the hotel. So it was quite a shocking first impression, man, right off the back. But overall, I mean, when we walked into the locker room for the first time, the atmosphere just felt different, you know, and we didn't realize how special that place was until we came back the next time, and then it became more and more special every time we came back to the ECW arena. And when I say special, I mean in every aspect of the way. The locker room vibe, there was no politics rumbling around. It was straight up showtime. Let's go out there and have a good time. Let's make this show what it is. And we felt that right from the beginning. I recall we felt not out of place, but we just didn't want to step on anyone's toes, and we wanted to make sure that what we did with permission. So I remember walking over to Paulie and asking him if it was okay if I believe it was a table or a chair, if it was okay if we used one of those. And Paulie goes, Ray, he goes, you can use whatever you want. Just go out there and have fun. So that right there just pretty much opened up the doors, and after that there was no asking for permission to do this or do that. It was pretty much go out there and go all out, man, and have fun. Like I said, no politics. It was just pure hardcore animated wrestling.
When you guys went out there, oh, go ahead.
Hey, Ray, just real quick, I was talking to Psychosis earlier today, and he said when he got there, when you both first got there the first time, that some of the people that you guys encountered were really helpful. And he mentioned guys like Tommy Dreamer, he mentioned Bill Alfonso, and several people, established veterans within ECW. And he did mention the same point, that there was no politics. Everybody was very helpful with you guys. Are there any particular guys that you remember that were just that you say, man, you know what, that guy really hooked it up, that guy really helped us? Because going to a new arena, a new company, you guys were, 18, 19 years old for the very first time, was probably might have been a little different, scary. So who were the guys that, off the top of your head, you can remember, said, look, man, those guys really, really, really went out of the way to hook it up for us?
If I had to point the finger at someone that didn't show any friendship or respect, there was no one there. Everybody, just went out of their way to say hi and to say, hey, welcome. We just felt very welcome there, from Cactus Jack to Sabu, who both of them were two of the top stars there at the time. Later on came Steve Austin, and he was always very cool as well. Who would have known that later on he would become the mega superstar that he became? But again, everybody was always very very friendly, man, and I think that counts a lot. Mikey Whipwreck went out of his way all the time, to help us either in any way, put matches together or guide us, or if we needed anything, he was always there on point. And yeah, Tommy definitely was one of the main guys that was, it was very, very friendly from the beginning, still to the day.
Cool.
When you and Micho went out there to do your match, did you have a mindset of let's go out there and give them exactly what we given Mexico because we know it's going to be different, or did you have any thoughts about should we or should we not kind of try to cater to this audience, or like where was your head at in terms of like putting the first match together?
Oh, we definitely wanted to cater to the audience. We wanted to make sure that whatever we did that night, we were going to have fun with it, and we knew that if we had fun, they were going to have fun. So there was it was what we did pretty much was we did a Mexican style match, the matches that we were having in Mexico at the time, and we added the ECW version. We had stuff to play with. It's almost like a kid going into a playground, and it's just sand and swings and a slide. But if you have toys to play with to roll down the slide or just things that you can have fun with, kids gonna have a hell of fun, and we did the same. Especially when Polly said, just go out there and have fun. That was kind of like our blessing to do whatever we wanted. And it's funny because I just did an interview a couple weeks ago. I was in Europe, and the person that was doing the interview, he brought this up, and he goes, I will never forget. He goes, a friend of mine, a good wrestler, he said, back in the day, this was probably a couple months after Psychosis and I had done our first match in ECW. He goes, he told me that I had to watch this match between Psychosis and Rey Mysterio, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And when he put the video and I sat down and I watched, he said, oh my God, he goes, wrestling will never be the same. He goes, this is a game changer. He goes, and he even asked me, he goes, did you realize what the impact that you guys had in wrestling at that time? And to be honest, no, we now we go back and reflect on it and go, wow, that's cool that we kind of put our stamp there, and it transcended, to something very big, which is what wrestling is now. But at the time, we were just kids having fun, not kids, but adults perfecting our craft and having fun with it. Not realizing that this was going to be a big impact in wrestling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely. And honestly, that's why now, 20 years later, we're dedicating this whole issue of the magazine to this, because it really was a big turning point for the industry. There's so many wrestlers nowadays that look at the guys that you're working now on the indie scene, guys like Amazing Red and guys who have always said since day one, it was Rey Mysterio that got me into wanting to be a wrestler or wrestling the style, or it was the luchadors in WCW that made me want to do this. And there's definitely this impact, and that's why I think it's so interesting for us now to go, wow, it's been 20 years, and look at how the style has changed and how influential things have been. There's probably not, especially on the indie scene, maybe not in WWE, but there's probably not a match that happens where there's not a move or two that originally you only saw in a Lucha Libre match, So
right.
That's a huge testament to what you guys brought to the industry. Do you remember the crowd's reaction kind of during the match, or were you guys just so in the match? Did you realize at that moment that the crowd was just, had their jaws open and couldn't believe what they were seeing?
Not to that extreme, but I've always been the type of wrestler that likes to feed off the energy of the fans, and I would realize that every time I did something big, the fans would react, and I was just waiting for that chant, ECW, ECW, and man, it was out there. From watching all the videos, from watching all the crazy moves that the stars were doing there at the time. I wanted to feel part of it, and I wanted to get that vibe, and we got it during that match. And yeah, I do recall feeling that energy, of the fans, just pretty much enjoying what we were giving them. There's just, it's impossible for you not to feel the energy there. That if you ever wrestled there, it was impossible. If they liked you, they were going to show you from day one, and I think that was the case with Psychosis and myself. And I recall we did enjoy that moment very, very much. That it was it was a shame that it was cut so short, because we wanted to keep going.
Yeah, Ray, hold on, Kevin. And Ray, in talking to Psychosis, he said that's one of the things that he was most nervous about. It wasn't the fact that you guys were there, but that they had given you, I think the first match was like one fall, 12 minutes, and to him, that was what made him the most nervous, the fact that you guys had a limited amount of time, and he was worried that you guys wouldn't be able to get all your stuff in. Was that something that you had in mind too, that they only gave you a certain amount of minutes, whereas in Mexico it was always 2 out of 3 falls, and you guys had more time to tell your story?
No, I don't remember being nervous of not being able to squeeze everything in. I mean, in my case, we knew each other so well that there was just I think my only fear factor was messing up, slipping, or doing something and messing up a certain move. But besides that, I mean, there was no fear or nervousness on my end on trying to squeeze everything in, especially because we would talk to each other during the match, and set things up, at the right time, at least we thought at the right time, and again, I would just feed off of the crowd's response. So it was just we had to adapt to a completely different style, but at the same time, we incorporated the high flying lucha libre, and it worked. It worked perfectly well, man. And I think Psychosis was probably nervous before he went out, but he might have that same issue that I have, that you get nervous, or you feel that anxiety before you step out. But once you're out there, it's like everything just goes away, man. And it's like art, it flows. It flows, and everything flowed damn well that night.
Yeah, cool.
Do you remember the locker room reaction when you guys got back after that match?
Yeah, they were pumped. They were really pumped. I don't know how much attention we had, and that's something that I've never asked, and I think that's actually a good question to bring around to some of the boys that were actually back there. How much attention was on us the moment we stepped out. If people or the boys from in the locker room stopped what they were doing to kind of peep the monitor and see what kind of reaction we were going to get, because again, there was a big gap that needed to be filled in. Not just anybody walked out. I mean, it was Eddie, it was Dean, it was Chris. So we had a big space to fill. So I'm wondering now if the boys in the locker room, in a good way, thought that we could live up to that hype. But I do recall coming back and a lot of the boys walked up and said, good match. You guys tore it up, So that just made you feel even better.
When was it that night that Paul said he wanted you guys back for more, or were you guys waiting for a call, or how did that whole thing work?
Conan was always our guy to go to. He took care of everything. He was the one that again got us that first booking with ECW, and I guess Conan knew that once we wrestled there one time, that Paulie was gonna like what he was gonna see, and he was gonna bring us back, and that was the case. Later on, it got a bit more exciting and more interesting because we did tag matches. He brought La Parca in, Juventud in. So, we kind of went through this phase where we were enjoying going to Philly twice a month, to do the ECW shows, and Paulie was real happy, man. He was real happy with the outcome of having Lucha Libre in his arena.
So after the first singles match, and then you and Nicho did a 2 out of 3 falls match, and then it was time for what really was kind of their second biggest show every year, this November to Remember show, and you guys had your 2 out of 3 falls Mexican death match, and this match, even today, there's highlights on WWE.com, and it really is remembered as kind of the defining, I guess, lucha match from that era in ECW. Do you, I guess maybe talk a little bit about your thoughts going into that match? Did you feel it was any different? Was there more pressure or less pressure since you had been in front of this crowd already? Any specifics about that match that you remember?
No, we were already adapted to the style. We already had a connection with the fans, and it just made it much more easier, much more enjoyable. Like I mentioned before, every time we go back and wrestle for ECW, it just got better and better every time. You go through phases, or at least we went through phases in that arena and with that company, being able to use a table, a chair, then of course later being able to interact with the fans and having them giving you something so you can use to hit your opponent. So we kind of we didn't take everything in at once. It took its time for us to really adapt well, and that was, I think, the moment that we enjoyed the most. And of course, leading up to the 2 out of 3 falls, knowing that the fans had seen us just do one fall, they were really excited, knowing that we were going to go 2 out of 3, because now they were going to see much more of Psychosis and Rey, and they just didn't know what to expect, so they were pretty pumped. That energy was passed over onto us, and again, we gave one more hell of a show, and again, the shame of all of that is man, it was cut too short, because the more and more we got acquainted, it's like, wow, this is, I can keep doing this for a very long time, not even thinking of WCW or what was going to come ahead. We were so comfortable and felt established already with ECW that I know at one point they kind of pulled me away and started doing a bit of a storyline with 911 and the Pitbull Brothers.
Yeah, I think that leads into kind of my next question, which is, being right there in the moment in that period of ECW, did you think that WCW or WWE were possibilities? Was that even in your in your goals at that point, or where did you see your career going from there?
I had no vision of going to WCW. I had no desire to be part of WWE at that time. I mean, I was very comfortable with the stage that I was at in my career. So, I didn't even have my eyes set on WCW or was even thinking, man, you think they might see me perform here and might want to bring me over to WCW? I was very happy with what I was doing at the time until again Conan was able to move things around and again he was the first one to enter and of course later on they wanted to bring some wrestlers in and Conan, just like in ECW, the first ones to recommend were Psychosis and myself.
Looking back, how important to your career now, when you look back 20 years ago, do you think that ECW run, as short as it was, was the overall career of Rey Mysterio?
How big was it?
How important? Like looking back now, had you never gone to ECW, what do you think the things would have been the same? How important was that ECW run to you in your career?
I think it was very important. I think that was my introduction to the United States. The fact that I had done independent shows in LA and San Bernardino and part of the West Coast, meant nothing until the doors opened up for me in ECW. I think that was definitely a big turnaround in my career because that was kind of like the gateway for the introduction to the bigger companies, which at the time were WCW and WWF. So, that was my center stage for other companies to take a look at what ECW had, and if they liked it, they were going to take it away. It's just part of the evolution of wrestling.
For sure. And then I guess lastly, just any other thoughts or memories from that time that, that in 1995, 1996, or I guess, prior to ECW or the WCW that, that you have or that you would want to share?
Man, that was definitely one of the funnest times that I've had in this industry. When you're young, you almost feel invincible. You feel like you can do it all. You enjoy every single moment. There's no pressure. It was just a different lifestyle at that time, and wrestling was definitely not what it is now. It was completely different. It was enjoyable. It was the locker room in ECW was an incredible atmosphere that I truly believe that there's not going to be another place like it, and it's hard to erase those memories, man. If anything, you want to keep those memories and cherish them forever, and I think that's probably one of the highest peaks of my career that I enjoyed the most, that I had the most satisfaction, being in ECW. And nothing but to thank Conan for always thinking about us and always taking us along wherever he went. And he would open up the doors and we would come right behind, And, of course, to thank Paul Heyman as well because, he ran the company. If he would have said, oh, no, I don't want them, It could have been that simple, and Ray probably wouldn't have gone to WCW or Psychosis or end up in WWE. So my career could have been ended a lot sooner than what it has now. So I'm very thankful with both of them, and mainly with God for blessing me with this great opportunity in this industry and being able to perform at a worldwide level, and having all these fans, man, that have supported me throughout 25 years of my career.
Awesome. Ruben, did you have any other questions before we let Ray go?
No, I think we're good. I want to go to sleep too.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think this was awesome. This was great. It definitely add to the magazine. Obviously, getting directly words from you and from Nicho were important to us for this thing. So I appreciate you taking your time and doing it with us.
No worries. No worries. Thank you, guys. Ruben, see you in the morning, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna be at Carlos's at 5:20, so which means he'll come out of his house at 5:45. So we'll head over.
He better not be late, man.
No, you have to be over there. You have to be over there at 6, right?
Yeah, we have to be there at 6.